I trust your opinion.
And now, for your host, he's putting sense back into nonsense.
Absolute insanity.
Well, you can hear me on the radio. You want to turn me on, turn on your stereo. You can sing along while we're playing our song. How you done me wrong, baby, crank it up.
And now, your host, Beth Ann.
And I welcome you today to CSC Talk Radio. It's my honor, my privilege, and my pleasure to be here with you today. We're going to talk about some smoke and mirrors, distractions in the media, riots, yes, they are mobs, in the streets, attacks on senators and representatives, attacks on citizens, stopping traffic. The snowflakes have turned to rabid dogs, rabid animals, just lashing out, clawing and biting whoever doesn't agree with them. But make no mistake about it, this is not the exercise of free speech. Spitting on people, cornering them in elevators, scratching on doors, how insane is that? Disrupting dinners in restaurants, that is disturbing the peace. Those are riots, those are mobs. They're not exactly what we would call peaceful demonstrations. Dan Bongino mentioned here recently that the government is their God, meaning the left, and we've taken their God away, and they are angry. And I say to you, they're not going to stop until they get it back or until we put a stop to them somehow, some way. Now, if you watch baseball, the batter makes this fantastic, nearly home run hit. I mean, it is soaring. And some equally fantastic center fielder makes a tremendous jump, practically climbing the back fence, the back wall, and he snatches that would-be home run ball. And all say of the batter, he was robbed. And in a sense, he was. But that's how the game is played. Our Constitution and our elections are about each of us being equal. Our current president was elected not by the popular vote, but by the wisdom of our founding fathers to protect the individual voter, the Electoral College. So like the great center fielder, the Electoral College robbed the left of a popular vote. So they were robbed. In their way of thinking, they were robbed. You've heard me say, if they remove the electoral vote, the Electoral College, this republic form of government, which is almost extinct now, will be done. That will be the final nail in the coffin for liberty, independence, and sovereignty. The popular vote is there. It's here to protect not the popular vote. The Electoral College is here to protect the state's sovereignty. We're not to be dictated from D.C. They are to be representing you and me. You have to remember, God created man, so God is number one. There's no question about it. And that makes man number two. Man created the state. That makes the state number three. And the state of men created the federal government, which makes them number four. They are not the top dog. God is. And then you. In order to keep equality, we must remember the order of things and respect one another. We've talked about the distractions before. They are by design. You must know this by now. You know, when President Trump does his nicknames, I get a big chuckle out of them sometimes. But when he nicknamed this week, when he nicknamed Stormy Daniel, it seemed a little more insulting to me than some of the others. And then I got to thinking about it. He did it on purpose. He didn't do it for Stormy's benefit, but to distract the left when it's so easy for him. They make it so easy. It had a purpose, and not for the meanness that we might have originally thought it to be. Now, I'm not disputing it, that it was a mean thing to do, but that's not why he did it. My point is we the people have an arduous job trying to sort through it all. But we can do it. Read your Constitution, know your history, understand your sovereignty. And my guest today is going to help us with that. It's Tom DeWeese. It's been a while since he's been on, so I'm going to give him another introduction. He's one of the nation's leading advocates of individual liberty, free enterprise, private property, personal privacy, back to basics, education, and American sovereignty and independence. For 40 years, Tom DeWeese has been a businessman, grassroots activist, writer, and publisher. As such, he has always advocated a firm belief in man's need to keep moving forward while protecting our constitutionally guaranteed rights. We're going to be talking about these distractions that I mentioned earlier and what exactly they are up to. The violence, the screaming, the impeachment, the hate for the sitting president. What's it all about, Tom? Welcome back. We're so happy to have you back here on CSC Talk Radio.
Well, thank you, Beth Ann. It's very good to be with you.
Well, we're glad to have you. You know, I told you I'd been trying to get a hold of you, and I apparently didn't try very hard. And I apologize to my listeners. Tom should be a regular on the show. He really should be. And he wrote an article recently about the anti-Trump riots are a smokescreen. The real goal is to eliminate the Electoral College. Now, we talked about the Electoral College quite a bit right after the election when the mobs were all screaming, he was robbed, we were robbed, and here we are talking about it again, and it is very, very serious. And I'm going to kind of turn it over to you for the next few minutes before we go into a break.
Okay. Well, the Electoral College was created by the founders for very specific reasons. It was, first of all, the number one thing we have to understand, it was the states, the individual states that put together the federal government. And they were quite nervous about putting a central government. They know they needed to do that. They had to do with trade with other countries. It had to do with national defense, things like that.
Monetary purposes, just kind of an organizational type thing to pull it together.
Exactly. But they all considered themselves independent states. And so the dilemma was, how do we put these two things together and we can all live in harmony, and the states maintain their sovereignty? I mean, every single state has its own state constitution. Every one of those state constitutions declare its sovereignty.
Yes, they do.
And so that is, that was the situation. And they did several things. They first of all, in putting the House of Representatives together, they did that based on the population of the country. So those representatives in Congress and in the House of Representatives were the ones to represent the population. And then they put together the Senate. The Senate was originally not elected. 2 senators were appointed by the states to represent the state's interest. That made it equal, whether you were Rhode Island or you were New York or the biggest states. The representation was the same.
And I believe, I'm going to stop you right there. I believe the changing of that's the 17th Amendment, am I correct?
That's correct.
When they changed that created these career politicians almost immediately, because they can go from one state to the other and just buy these votes. They just buy them up, and it's a popular vote, so to speak. They're no longer appointed, and they don't really represent anyone but themselves.
Yeah, they certainly don't represent the states.
No.
That went away. They became a House of Lords. We are going to oversee everything. We know best. And, of course, they're only elected every 6 years. And, yeah, it's a popular vote, elects them, but it's not what it was set up to be.
It really messed things up. It really did mess things up. We're going into a break, Tom. You hang on. I want to talk more about this Electoral College. We're going to dedicate the entire show to this. It's something that I think is very important, and you need to know about it. You need to have a call to action out there. If you want to visit with us on phone, just 877-895-5410 is the number to call. That's 877-895-5410. And Tom and Beth Ann, we're going to be right back.